That pay off, and really incredible scene downtown Atlanta all week. It's been amazing what this host committee did. It's like a Super Bowl, and it's a really exciting time. We'll see.
Want to talk to you a lot about what's going to happen on the field tonight. Let me start with some logistical issues before we get to that, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of Dog fans paid a lot of money for these tickets, and they want to be able to get inside the stadium. And the extra challenge tonight is, in addition to the normal security concerns that seem to exist for an event like this, you also have the arrival of President Trump. My understanding is Trump is in the building.
Yeah.
Can you give us an update on how the entrance for the average fan is going tonight?
Well, I can confirm that the president is in the building now. They don't really like you to do that, but the bottom line was the gates were closed for a good long time, and nobody was sure why. There was rumors that the computers had crashed, and people were complaining. My phone started buzzing a lot. You know, we can't get in. We've been standing in the rain for 45 minutes. These are all logistics of getting the president here into the game. As far as I know, since Jimmy Carter was in the Sugar Bowl, might be the first time since the president's been.
That's certainly true. And by the way, it's kind of a nice feeling to know if folks are having a hard time getting in the game, they start reaching out to Chip Towers, thinking Chip Towers is going to do something about it.
Yeah, I think they just knew I had a good Twitter following. You know, hey, we can't get in and we're mad.
So if you're watching us right now, you're still at your tailgate or one of the local watering holes that surround Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta. I think the advice that you and I would both give is, how about you go ahead and pay your tab, go ahead and put up your tailgate, get ready to get over here, because I can say this, I got inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium at 2 p.m. today. It was an incredibly long security line. Even then, the president just means extra attention being paid to those gates.
It is, well, actually you got, the security team, his security team, providing security. And I was just saying, we were talking about the host committee. We were just talking about it up in the press box. You know, they planned for 4 years for this event, and then 4 days before it happens, the president says, hey, yeah, I'm coming too.
It's amazing.
It's kind of like, oh, well, all that's out the window.
So one of the things that you see on the field right now and behind us, a lot of those pregame festivities are going on. Before you get to Georgia, Alabama, who's going to win this game between these two outstanding teams, clearly right now you see the SEC taking a bit of a bow. The SEC Network studios, their setup is behind me. They've been broadcasting live. SEC commercials have been playing here over the loudspeakers, the video boards here. Before we actually get to Georgia, Alabama, who's going to win this game, the SEC clearly showing a little pride right now about having two teams in this game.
Yeah, I've run into Greg Sankey a lot this week, and he's just about hoarse at this point. Not just answering questions and accepting praise, but also sort of, he's not going to apologize for two SEC teams, being here. At the end of the day, I think, it worked again. The best two teams got here. I never did personally have much of a problem with the decision of getting Alabama in these four. And then certainly Georgia has done their part. I don't think anybody got cheated in reaching this championship game. Now, nationally, it'll be interesting to see what the television numbers say. Is it a regional game? Because it does feel like the SEC championship on steroids a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Georgia's obviously the surprise entrant in this game. Most folks would have expected Alabama to be here. Given the fact that Georgia's maybe, and I know Kirby Smart hates this phrase, but maybe arriving here early, ahead of schedule, does that give Georgia some freedom tonight to play as an underdog, to take some chances that it might not take in a normal game? Because Alabama is a slight point spread favorite. They've been in these kinds of games for longer than Georgia. Does that give Georgia a chance to play a little looser tonight, you think?
I really don't give the edge to Georgia in that capacity. I mean, I think Alabama has an advantage in being here so often all the time. This is where they expect to be after all, and they've been able to put on the hat and say a little bit, as Nick Saban likes to do, that we were disrespected, people didn't want us in here. But the bottom line is, third year in a row they've been in this deal. And even though Kirby Smart has a tremendous amount of experience preparing for these games, and I do think that helps Georgia immensely, these players don't. And I mean, when you get inside this building, this is a big deal. Outside this building is a big deal. Everything we've dealt with all week is a big deal. It's different, and it feels different. And so how the players react to that, I don't know. That's why we're showing up, to see how they react to it. But I think it's a big part of how this game goes, for tonight.
One of the things that's been talked about a lot is the way these two teams are almost mirror images of each other. They both want to run the football. They both want to play good defense. They both want to be dominant along the lines of scrimmage. Is that the deciding factor in the game tonight? Whoever does that the best? Or does one of these two teams throw a surprise at the other?
Well, essentially at the end of the day, what you have is Georgia trying to out-Alabama. And that's a hard thing to do. And for that reason, I've thrown this score out there this week. They wanted to say score. and I'm saying Georgia 22-19.
Okay, wow.
And people say 22-19. That's a weird number, and that's what I think it's going to be a weird game. Yeah. I think something's got to give. I think we're talking about a safety. I think we're talking about a blocked extra point return, for 2 points. Something weird has got to happen here tonight because they are so similar, and because their modus operandi is so similar that it's going to be something fluky, in my opinion, that's going to decide it.
I thought one of the interesting things that Kirby Smart said on Sunday, and he said this in the midst of praising Nick Saban for how he's handled these moments in the past, he talked about the crucial nature of the 24 hours leading up to the game. Georgia made a lot of decisions how it handled its business this weekend. Going back to Athens for practice, for instance, what it did last night, apparently going to a movie based on what Kirby Smart said. But he talked about how those 24 hours, he thought, I'm going to paraphrase here, but a bit of a make-or-break scenario in terms of the mental preparation, the final touches that you put in your game plan. Can you give us an idea what the last 24 hours have been like for Georgia?
Well, actually, I've been staying in the same hotel in the downtown Hyatt as the Georgia Bulldogs, and I can tell you, most of the times I've spotted any Bulldogs, they've been all crammed together in an elevator going straight from their upper floors straight down to a guarded basement level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been high security, and not just, from being clandestine about what they want to do, but I think that had a lot to do with Kirby wanting to practice in Athens rather than Atlanta. He just doesn't want to take any chances, and he doesn't want any of the riffraff or the moment to distract these guys from what they've got to do. And so that's what you've had, is them on elevators, them on buses, them in hotel rooms, them in meeting rooms.
Well, for what it's worth, a very different scenario from last week where the Georgia team hotel in the midst of a bowl situation, a lot more festive, a lot more intermingling with Georgia players, Georgia fans. That hotel last week was full of Georgia fans. Yeah. The Hyatt, more of a business-type hotel for what is, for Georgia, another business trip, and they've had so many of these already this season.
Well, they're there. Let me tell you, I mean, it's a real who's who here tonight, period. Who's who in Georgia football history. They're all in the building. Herschel's here. I can't tell you how many 1980 championship rings I've seen the last couple of days in the lobby of the Hyatt. So it's been a pretty incredible scene, even at the Hyatt.
Let's talk about Georgia quarterback Jake Fromm here for a moment. The one thing I don't think either one of us would expect is for this moment to be too big for him tonight. And that's saying a lot because as you look around, this moment's about as big as it gets, both in terms of the luminaries that are here and this platform for college football. The stadium is magnificent. But Fromm has just taken everything in stride this season. The Rose Bowl was an animal until itself last week. Fromm was fine there. My guess is Jake Fromm is okay in this spot, even with this intense atmosphere, once again for Georgia.
I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, I think if Georgia loses this game, it's not going to be because of quarterback play. I think it's going to be because of other reasons. Now, Jake Fromm, is handling the ball, and in games like against Auburn, when you're not getting any line of scrimmage help, he's going to look like the guy who's having a bad game, but it's not going to be because of anything he does or decides that they lose the game. In fact, I give Georgia an edge on quarterback play. Certainly not athleticism at quarterback, but I think, Jake Fromm's ability to get them in and out of the place they need is a big part of the game.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, let's finish up with this for right now anyway. Alabama's quarterback is Jalen Hurts. His record has been sterling in 2 years, the Alabama starter. He was the most outstanding player in the Sugar Bowl last week. He was the SEC's Offensive Player of the Year in his true freshman season of 2016. He's dynamic and dangerous with his legs. Can the Georgia defense stop him tonight?
Well, I think they can, and it's going to be interesting how they do it. If you go back, and you've talked about that on your show this week, they play quarterbacks like this year, a lot of them, Brandon Wimbush probably being the closest one to this one, and Georgia's done it different ways. I mean, I think originally when they went out after Baker Mayfield, the idea was to keep him in the pocket a little bit. Obviously, that didn't work. He was picking them apart. And so Georgia came after him in the second half. Jalen Hurts hasn't had a great year throwing the football. So, I see Georgia doing everything they can to come after him and disrupt his play because it all starts with him.
That is Chip Towers. My name is Brandon Adams. Thanks so much for being with us here on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium as we get ready for Georgia-Alabama coming up in just a few minutes. Chip, of course, got plenty of written work coming up tonight. Seth Emerson as well. We'll be on the field after the game for our Dixie Vodka post-game coverage. Also, don't forget, coming up in about 15 minutes, hope to check back in for a look at Georgia going through its pregame warm-ups. We'll see the Dogs in uniform getting ready to go. That'll be coming up here on the Dog Nation Facebook page. We'll talk to you then.